You ever wonder why you, the empath, the one who loves deeply, forgives quickly and feels everything, keeps attracting people who run from emotions like it's a fire drill? You give, they withdraw. You open up, they shut down. It's not random. It's psychological warfare disguised as chemistry. And the craziest part, you feel drawn to them, like gravity, even when every instinct screams, "This will hurt." See, this isn't about bad luck in love. It's about patterns, subconscious blueprints built from your emotional DNA. Avoidants crave what you radiate: warmth, empathy, connection. But the second they feel it, they panic. Because love to them feels like danger, like losing control, like being exposed. And yet, they can't stay away. It's the dance of contradiction. The empath who feels too much, and the avoidant who feels too little. You become their emotional safe house, the calm before every storm they secretly create. They feed off your energy to fill the void they refuse to face. And when your light starts reflecting their shadow, they run. That's not rejection. That's recognition. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But what happens when your thoughts are soaked in someone else's chaos? That's what this episode is about, the hidden psychology behind why super empaths, people with enormous emotional capacity, keep attracting avoidants, people terrified of being fully seen. Because you think love means healing someone, they think love means losing themselves. You crave intimacy, they crave independence. You crave connection, they crave escape. It's the emotional tug-of-war where one person keeps showing up and the other keeps disappearing. But here's the twist no one tells you. This attraction isn't a curse, it's a mirror. You're not drawn to their detachment. You're drawn to your own unfinished healing. Every time an avoidant pulls away, it reactivates something ancient in you. That old wound that says, "I must prove I'm worthy of staying." That's why you overextend. That's why you keep forgiving. That's why you say, "It's okay," when it's not. You confuse emotional endurance for love, but love shouldn't require suffering to prove its worth. You see, an empath's greatest power is also their greatest weakness. They can feel someone's pain so deeply, they forget it's not theirs to fix. And avoidance? They're magnetically drawn to that kind of energy. Not because they want to connect, but because they want to borrow what they can't create on their own. It's not your job to keep rescuing people who keep running from rescue. It's not your duty to pour life into someone who leaks self-awareness. You deserve reciprocity, not resistance. Mutual safety, not emotional survival. Love that expands you, not one that empties you. But here's where it gets deep. Avoidants don't consciously chase empaths. Their nervous system does. It senses the emotional warmth it's been starved of since childhood. It tastes it, then retreats, like someone terrified of drowning but desperate for water. It's not personal, it's programmed. Psychology calls it the anxious-avoidant trap. Attachment theory calls it the push-pull cycle. But spiritually, it's a test to see if you'll finally stop confusing emotional labor with love. Because when you learn to stop chasing, to stop explaining, to stop overgiving, you break the pattern. That's when you become magnetic. That's when your energy stops attracting takers and starts attracting equals. This episode is going to expose the entire emotional algorithm, why they run, why you chase, and how to finally stop replaying this karmic script once and for all. Because when you understand the psychology behind the pull, you stop personalizing their distance and start mastering your own power. So if you've ever felt like you're too much, if you've ever been told you love too hard, or if you keep asking, why do I attract people who can't meet me halfway? This one's for you. By the end of this video, you'll see the pattern. You'll understand your energy, and you'll know exactly how to break free without breaking your heart. Enjoyed this video? Here's how to level up with Ace Wisdom. Drop a like if this hit home. It helps more people find the truth they need to hear. Subscribe if you're ready to outgrow the old version of yourself. We break down emotional patterns, psychology, and real power moves after heartbreak. If you're serious about healing, detaching, and becoming untouchable, this is your space. Turn on all notifications so you never miss when a new video drops. Want deeper insights, plus exclusive content? Join the channel membership, Spark of Wisdom, Wisdom Warrior, or step it up a notch by becoming an Ace of Aces member. The link is in the video description. Know someone who needs this message? Share this video with a friend who's stuck, confused, or ready to rise. You could be the reason they finally let go and step up. Their breaking point: silence, replacement, and regret. Because what's coming next will make you emotionally untouchable. Stay till the end. There's a secret mantra waiting inside key point 3, and the first person to comment it will get pinned. Now, let's talk about the hidden psychology behind why super empaths always attract avoidance, and how to turn that pain into power. Stay focused. Key point 1. The emotional frequency that creates the pull. Let's get real. This connection between empaths and avoidance isn't random. It's energetic math, an unspoken exchange happening at the level of your nervous system, not your logic. You, the empath, vibrate on the frequency of healing, depth, and emotional safety. They, the avoidant, vibrate on the frequency of fear, control, and emotional distance. And somehow, the two collide, not because it's love at first sight, but because it's familiar pain disguised as passion. Here's what psychology won't tell you plainly. You don't attract what you want, you attract what feels familiar. And if chaos felt like love in your childhood, then peace will feel boring. If you had to earn attention growing up, then rejection will feel like home. So when an avoidant shows up, calm on the surface, emotionally unavailable underneath, your system doesn't say red flag. It says, I know this energy. I can fix it this time. That's the trap. You're not drawn to the person. You're drawn to the unfinished lesson. Every empath who's ever whispered, I just see the good in people, was actually saying, I see the potential of healing the pain I once carried. Avoidants sense that frequency instantly. Your calm becomes their shelter. Your openness becomes their supply. Your compassion becomes their permission to stay unhealed. But here's the truth. Bomb most people never face. Avoidants don't choose you because you're weak. They choose you because you're strong enough to carry both of your emotional loads until you realize you don't have to. They chase your safety. They taste it. Then they sabotage it. Because the closer they get to love, the more their fear of loss ignites. It's not your love that triggers them, it's your consistency. Because consistency exposes the chaos they've been hiding from their whole life. Think about that. Your stability feels unsafe to them because they've never known it. Your patience feels threatening because it demands vulnerability. Your emotional depth feels suffocating because it dismantles their control, so they pull away. They go quiet. They start acting off, not because you did something wrong, but because your presence is holding up a mirror they don't want to look into. It's like their subconscious says, stay close enough to feel loved, but far enough not to be exposed. And you, being the empath, try harder. You explain, you reassure, you lower your boundaries thinking it'll help, but it doesn't. It just confirms what their mind already fears, that love equals losing freedom. Here's the shift. You're not supposed to chase emotional safety. You're supposed to embody it, because when you radiate security instead of offering it, you stop being a magnet for the emotionally unavailable and start being a mirror for the emotionally mature. It's not about closing your heart. It's about elevating your frequency. When you stop trying to convince people to meet you where you are, you naturally attract those who already exist at that level. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And emotional bravery means letting go of what drains you, even when your heart still cares. Your empathy is your gift, but it becomes your curse when you give it to people running from themselves. So from this moment on, you're done trying to teach people how to love you. You're going to embody the kind of love that no longer tolerates confusion. That's the first step in breaking the empath-avoidant cycle. Stop tuning your frequency to match their wounds. Let them rise to meet yours, because the energy that created the bond isn't strong enough to sustain your evolution. Stay tuned. Key point 2 will expose exactly how avoidants emotionally feed off connection while convincing you they don't need it. Key point 2. How avoidants feed off connection while pretending they don't need it. Let's strip the mask off the avoidant mindset. They act like they don't care. They act like they don't need you. They act like detachment is strength. But the truth? Avoidants crave connection, just not intimacy. They want your presence, not your closeness, your comfort, not your depth, your energy, not your expectations. It's like emotional window shopping. They love looking at love. But the second it's time to commit, they panic. Because to them, connection equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals danger. They were trained, often in childhood, that love comes with conditions, that closeness leads to control, that dependency leads to disappointment. So they learned how to survive without attachment, to stay in control by staying unreachable. But don't get it twisted. Their distance is not power. It's a defense mechanism. And you, the empath, represent everything they secretly want but don't know how to sustain. You give them warmth they don't have to earn. You offer safety they didn't think existed. And for a while it feels good to them, like standing in sunlight for the first time, until that light gets too bright. Then comes the retreat, the coldness, the sudden silence. It's not random, it's regulation. Their nervous system can only handle love in doses. Psychologists call this the avoidant deactivation strategy. When emotions rise, they disconnect, they downplay, they distract, because love makes them feel out of control, and control is their drug. And here's the most dangerous part. They'll feed off your emotional availability to refill their sense of worth, then pull back the moment you expect emotional reciprocity. It's a psychological loop. They crave the safety you offer, but once they feel it, they unconsciously recreate the instability they grew up in, because peace feels foreign and pain feels familiar. That's why after every withdrawal, they return. They don't come back because they've changed. They come back because they're empty again. You become their emotional charger. They plug in when they need validation, attention, or comfort. And when they're recharged, they vanish until the next emotional low. They'll say, "I just need space," but what they really need is healing. Avoidants aren't heartless. They're emotionally malnourished, and they confuse your emotional generosity for nourishment. But here's the paradox. The more you feed them, the less they appreciate it, because deep down, they feel unworthy of being loved so freely. Your kindness triggers their shame. Your patience exposes their guilt. Your love reminds them how disconnected they are from themselves. So they'll project that discomfort onto you, accusing you of being too emotional, too needy, too much, when really you're just reflecting their unprocessed pain. And because you're the empath, You internalize it. You start thinking something's wrong with you. You start shrinking your emotions to make them comfortable. You silence your needs to keep the peace. You start calling crumbs connection, because it's all they're capable of giving. But here's the truth bomb. Avoidants need you more than you need them. They just can't admit it. They depend on your emotional fluency to feel what they've been avoiding all along. They use your empathy to access feelings they've buried. They take your love as evidence that maybe they're not as broken as they fear. But love was never meant to be therapy. You're not their healer, you're their mirror. And the moment you stop overextending, the moment you reclaim your energy, you'll see how quickly their power crumbles, because without your validation, their illusion of control falls apart. So from this moment forward, stop being their emotional charger. Stop allowing connection to be one-sided. Let silence do the teaching. When you withdraw your energy, you don't punish them. You reveal the truth, that their distance was never strength. It was avoidance. In key point 3, we're diving deeper into the turning point where the empath finally stops chasing and the avoidant realizes the power dynamic has shifted. And trust me, inside that point lies the secret mantra. The first person to comment it will get pinned. Key point 3, the turning point. When the empath stops chasing and the avoidant starts breaking. Every empath reaches that moment, the moment you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your heart, stop chasing people who treat silence like power. It's not anger, it's awakening. You wake up one morning and the urge to prove your worth just disappears. You stop replaying the last message. You stop decoding mixed signals. You stop bargaining with inconsistency, because something clicks. You realize peace feels better than potential. That's the day the energy flips. Avoidants don't understand what just happened because their entire sense of control depended on your pursuit, on your reassurance, on your emotional reaction to their withdrawal. When you stop chasing, you take away the oxygen their ego runs on. And here's the paradox. The moment you detach, they finally feel the connection, not the version where they're in control, the version where they're exposed. See, avoidants don't process emotion through intimacy. They process it through absence. They need your silence to feel what your presence used to trigger. That's when the walls start cracking. At first, they'll tell themselves they're fine. They'll distract, scroll, date, work, anything but feel. But no amount of distraction can replace the stability you used to bring, because you weren't just someone they had. You were someone who made them feel safe. And when that energy disappears, their nervous system panics. They'll replay your calmness, your tone, the way you never matched their chaos. And for the first time, they'll realize you were the anchor they mistook for a cage. That's when the regret begins. Avoidants don't miss people the way most do. They miss the peace they didn't know they needed until it's gone. They miss the mirror that showed them who they could have been. They miss the emotional sanctuary they burned down because it felt too intense. And the irony? They'll try to come back. But this time, not because they're ready, but because they can't regulate without you. That's your cue to stay still, to hold your boundary, to understand that missing you doesn't equal readiness. Empaths often confuse regret with change, but real change only happens when someone faces their pain, not when they run from its silence. This is your power moment. Because the same silence they used to punish you is now the silence that's teaching them their biggest lesson. You've evolved from being their emotional charger to being their consequence. Your stillness speaks volumes. Your absence rewires their nervous system. Your indifference triggers what your love never could, accountability. And that's when they start breaking, not because you left, but because you stopped reaching. Here's what you need to understand. You can love someone deeply and still outgrow the version of yourself that tolerated confusion. You can care and still choose distance. You can forgive and still walk away. That's not coldness. That's clarity. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So stop debating whether they'll change. Be the change that makes their old behavior impossible to reach. This moment, right now, isn't just about healing from them. It's about healing the part of you that believed love had to hurt first to feel real later. And when you reach that level of peace, something incredible happens. You stop attracting people who need saving and start attracting people who are ready to build. So here's the mantra, the one that marks your shift from empathic overgiver to high-value empathic leader. I no longer chase connection. I create it by being whole. Type it in the comments. Claim it. Because the first person who drops this mantra below will get pinned, not as a competition, but as a declaration, a signal to everyone still trapped in the cycle that freedom begins when you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. Now let's go deeper, because in key point 4, we're breaking down the final transformation, how the healed empath becomes magnetic to secure love, while the avoidant is forced to face everything they ran from. The power shift from wounded empath to emotionally untouchable. So let's call it what it is. You didn't lose them, you outgrew them. You evolved past the version of yourself that tolerated emotional breadcrumbs. You stopped confusing almost love with alignment. You stopped trying to make peace in places that only offered chaos. That's the power of awareness. You can't unsee what you've healed from. You learned that love without reciprocity isn't love. It's emotional labor. That silence isn't mystery, it's avoidance. That space isn't growth, it's escape. And the moment you accepted that truth, you became unstoppable. Because when a super empath finally stops chasing validation and starts protecting their energy, everything changes. Your peace becomes your filter. Your standards become your protection. Your detachment becomes your attraction. They feel it, even if they never say it. The power shift isn't loud, it's felt. They used to think you'd never walk away. They thought your empathy was endless. They underestimated what happens when a soft heart grows boundaries. And now they're left replaying what they once dismissed. Your calmness, your loyalty, your energy, the same things they ran from are now the very things they crave. But you're not waiting anymore. You're watching your life expand in silence. You're building peace that doesn't require explanation. You're learning that solitude isn't loneliness, it's alignment. Because here's the truth. When you stop chasing emotionally unavailable people, you start attracting emotionally secure ones. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you start meeting people who already see it. When you stop making space for chaos, you make room for clarity. That's the full circle journey of the empath, from the rescuer to the revealer, to the one who finally says, I don't need to heal you to love myself. So if this episode hit something deep inside you, if it made you reflect or finally release someone who's been draining your peace, then do one thing for yourself right now. Comment your affirmation, not the secret mantra, your own truth. Something that reminds you you're done begging for basic love. Because this is your era of emotional mastery. This is Volume 8, their breaking point. Silence, replacement, and regret. And this is where the story flips. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and meet me in the next episode, where we're breaking down what happens when your silence starts haunting the avoidance mind. Because trust me, Their breaking point is closer than you think. This is ace wisdom, and your healing just became your superpower.